drives one in the air. Deep right field. It's got a chance. Grand slam. Way back it might be. It could be. Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. Holy cow.
Hey. The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. I'm here with Kevin, Jeff, and Jake. Our Cubbies are just coming off a 5-1 homestand. And I will say this, like, if you told me that the Cubs would be 5-1 on this homestand when we have the Dodgers coming into town, I would kind of be shocked. Now, beating the Rockies, sweeping the Rockies, kind of expected and really wanting that, especially at the beginning of the season, beating teams that we should beat. But 5-1 homestand, feeling good, feeling great. How are you guys doing after that great homestand at Wrigley? Kevin, let's start with you.
Man, I feel really good. I'll tell you, Friday, I was watching that game, and it was that offensive battle back and forth. And I was just in my head thinking, you know, if we could squeak this win out, I would feel so much more comfortable going into the weekend, knowing we weren't going to get swept. We had kept up with their offense, and we did. We squeaked that win out, and then going out and taking 2 of 3. Oh, cloud 9. Loving it. Loving it. What about you, Jeffy boy?
I was a little surprised that we did take 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. I really thought we'd come in on the bottom end of that, which is great. And it was great to see him sweep the Rockies because that's like a team that we should beat. So it's not like they didn't give one away there. Jake?
Yeah, I think the thing that's super exciting, I posted this, I think, after the Rockies series. And that was at a point where the season was still obvious. I mean, it is still a young season, but I feel really good that the offense, for the most part, barring Saturday, is consistently putting up runs. Like, how many times have we recorded episodes and lamented the fact that they put up 8 runs, 9 runs one day? And I've texted buddies and I've said, all right, they're laying a goose egg tomorrow. It doesn't feel that way this year. And I know, excuse me, got a little excited over here. I know we, Mitch, how are you feeling?
Oh, like, for me, like, it's that we're beating good pitchers. Like, we've battled against really good pitchers. And so that, like, our offense isn't just beating the teams that, like, of course, against the Rockies, that's some pretty poor pitching. But then when you go into the Dodgers series, like, okay, I know we're going to get some pretty good pitching. And to be able to put up the runs that we did against that quality of pitching, even though we even put some good at bats and had bases loaded in the first inning against Yamamoto. Like, if we could have got one across against Yamamoto in that first inning, I really think that was a very winnable game there. If we just could have got some runs early on, that would have totally changed. But Yamamoto is a great pitcher, but that's more telling early in this season for me is that we're scoring against quality pitching. We did it in Texas. We're doing it against the Dodgers. We're going to face really quality pitching here starting tonight with the Padres. So that's what I'm going to be looking for, this kind of juggernaut of an April. If we can keep this up, like, this is what we need. And we need to beat the teams we should beat. Last year, that wasn't the case. And so this year it's setting us up for success now for September, October by beating the Rockies 3 straight, which we should. But that's all because we have a balanced lineup. We can talk about Dansby, Seiya, Morel, and Bellinger, and I would even throw Happ in there as being kind of the catalyst and the leaders. But the supporting cast has done more than I would expect. Amaya's got some really key base hits. Busch, I mean, that was the series of Michael Busch right there, like revenge series for Michael Busch. You just have those guys coming alongside that you need. We've talked for so long about getting corner infielders to produce in this early season. That is the case, and that's happening. Let's talk about Michael Busch. Let's start there because he's coming off of a great weekend. What did you like, Jake? Have you noticed anything with Michael Busch and like how he's been a little bit maybe different than what he would be in the past? Or like, what have you kind of noticed in Michael Busch, how he's attacking pitches this year, making him successful?
I mean, right now, I don't know his pass rates off the top of my head, but 28.6% line drive rate is bonkers. That's not going to sustain, but if it can stay like in the upper teens, low 20s, that's great contact. You want to see a high line drive rate. And looking at the Cubs lineup right now, sprint speed, Michael Busch, not like he's 6th on the team. So to have a first baseman that can hit line drives, run the base as well, make good contact at the plate. Let's see his contact percentage. We talked about. I think I talked about this on the last podcast, like breaking down contact rates. And Busch is at 74%, which is solid. Anything below 70 is not good. Mid 70s or above is good. So 74.1%. Walking at a good rate, 12.5%. I mean, he's doing the things at the plate right now that you want. And it took him a little while, as you kind of said, Mitch, to turn it on. But this series, you kind of wonder, like, if he did have that extra motivation to want to prove it. You got to think that he did, right?
A little bit. I mean, yeah.
Against a team that like didn't give him a chance. And it's been talked about, obviously. They trade for and extend Freddie Freeman, and you got to realize, like, well, the writing's kind of on the wall there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been talked about too. I can't remember the last person. I feel like maybe one of the fantasy podcasts that I've talked about or listened to, they mentioned that every time Busch gets called up to a new level, he kind of struggles at first. And let's say, I don't know, maybe it's like at the end of the season or like halfway through the season or later, he gets called up. But then the following season, when he begins in that level that he got promoted to in the previous year, he really takes off. So that would track that this is the year for him with the Cubs in the majors. And so far, again, always have to put the caveat right now that it's a small sample size, but I've really liked what I've seen from Busch. Kevin, Jeff, you guys have any thoughts?
I don't have anything super specific other than to say it's wonderful to have him playing first base for us right now. I mean, it's such a change over the last few seasons. We had Dale last year, and some other folks kind of filling in. Having Michael Busch out there, he always. I haven't gotten to the point where I recognize him by face when he steps in the box. Every time he steps in, like, who's that? Why?
Yeah, I think I've told my kids, like, who's that? It's Michael Busch, like, for the 10th time. Like, this game.
Something about his face. There's something about his face where, like, I'm the same way, where it's like he's not super recognizable. But obviously, by the end of this month, we'll all be able to see. But like, there's something about his face. It's like maybe he just has one of those faces where he like looks like a bunch of people. But it's funny that you guys have noticed that too, because I've felt the same way.
I'm like, well, he's left-handed. He's one of the only left-handed bats in the lineup.
Yeah.
Bellinger stands straight up. He stands down. Like, understand his stance and like recognize it's Michael Busch. Like, I don't know what to,
and he and Bellinger don't look anything alike.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Something that I have kind of noticed is that if you look at his chase rate from his small sample size with the Dodgers, it was like at 29% last year. And I mean, he didn't get a ton of at-bats. But this year, his chase rate is at 80 percentile. He's in the 80 percentile. Like, that's really good. Like, and it started from the first game with the Rangers. He had some of the best at-bats, I would say, that game one. I think he walked twice. He was on base, I know, at least twice. But the way he takes some pretty professional at-bats. And I was like, okay, he's not seeing success. It took him a while to be able to get his first hit. But I was like, this is making me feel good about Michael Busch, the player, because he's taking really professional at-bats and he's going to see some success down the road. And this might be the start of that we start seeing. I mean, the dude is raked all through his career. And like, I love what you brought up, Jake, that like once he's now full in major leagues, like he's going to rise to that. And like you kind of talked about, like we've had first basemen where we since Rizzo, where we've just tried to just fill the position rather than now we have somebody that we can kind of invest in for a future. He's with us. He's young, and he's going to be, hopefully the power starts showing more and more. We got to see it a little bit against the Dodgers where he wind blowing in and he gets one down the line and gets into the basket. Like, hopefully we start seeing once June, July starts warming up, he's launching balls into the bleachers. So yeah, I've loved.
And really quick,
like
up on Mancini way too soon.
He didn't. I wonder if he's still in the Marlins organization.
I think they cut him.
Okay.
Got Master Boney.
Hey, Miles has looked okay. Miles has had some solid appearances, and obviously that utility plays. But to talk to the point of like, once he gets a full season at a level. So 2021 AA, 107 games, 870 OPS. I mean, he's basically a full season. But then 2022, 31 games to start the season in AA, 1112 OPS, which is nutty. I mean, that's off the charts good OPS. 2022 gets the call up to AAA, 111 games, 823 OPS, still pretty good. But then 2023 starts the season in AAA, 1094 OPS. So that idea tracks that, he gets, and we kind of have talked about it I think we talked about it during the offseason at the end of last season, talking about PCA and his struggles and the fact that he came up and got to see major league pitching and he gets a taste of what to prepare for over the offseason. Maybe that's been the case here for Busch. Maybe he's really put that into action. And he's able to find the holes in his swing, like Mitch, you mentioned the chase rate. He's able to find the holes in his swing and work on those things over the offseason, then come back prepared for the next level the following season. So hopefully we get to reap what the Dodgers sowed, I guess, in getting Busch for a full season here at the major league level.
And just some stats to go with how good the Cubs offense has been so far. We're averaging 6.25 runs per game. Run differential, we're plus 16 that for 7th best in the majors. We averaging 5.25 walks per game. That's second in the majors. So walk percentage at 13.3, awesome, which is first in baseball.
Yeah.
OBP, we're 370 for third best in the majors. Our strikeout rate is 18.4, which is fourth best. Our slug is 430, which is sixth best in baseball. Like, you're putting, like, those are the type of stats like we've been looking for out of this Cubs offense. And so my question is, and kind of posing it, thinking about Michael Busch and even Christopher Morel a little bit. Is this sustainable for the Cubs offense? Is this what we can project who they are the rest of this year? And we can take the Cubs lineup as a whole and then talk specifically about Busch and Morel. And if you're in the comments, I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are too. Do you think this is sustainable for the Cubs to do? Jeffrey, what do you think?
Until the scouting report changes on the hitters and bearing, we don't have too many significant injuries. I feel like it is a sustainable pace, but it's a long season.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to the rest of this month of baseball to see how they handle this meat grinder of a schedule. I mean, it'll be a big telltale indicator.
Yeah, because it's not an easy month. It's not an easy month ahead. And I think two things stand out to me. The current K and walk rates and where those stand. Excellent. I mean, looking at the individual players' walk rates, I mean, in the starting 9, all of them but Morel and Seiya have an above 10% walk rate, which is awesome. Getting on base, and on top of that, guys are making contact. The contact rates right now are also excellent. Worst contact rate in the starting 9 is Dansby at 69%. Nice. And that's going to go up. And Dansby's still playing really well. I mean, he's looking really good at the plate. His career contact rate, his average contact rate is 73%. So you can expect that 69% to bump up a little bit. And I think all of this right now is kind of the BABIP, so batting average on balls in play, is 301. And that's not inflated. Like that's a pretty normal, like it's good, but it's like a pretty normal, like to be expected batting average on balls in play. So all of the numbers right now are there. And when you consider that they went up against the defending World Series champions and still were able to hang crooked numbers. Yes, they played the Rockies, but it was, crap weather.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing it outdoors in April in Chicago and still putting runs on the board, finding ways to put runs on the board. And then they do it against the Dodgers. And like yesterday's game, Bobby Miller is one of the most promising young arms in Major League Baseball. I mean, look at his track record. It's sparkling. So to see that was Bobby Miller yesterday, right? Or was Bobby Miller Friday?
Bobby Miller was Friday.
Who was yesterday then? Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone and Bobby Miller, two of the best young pitchers in baseball. And they drove Bobby Miller out in the second inning, and Gavin Stone didn't go deep into the game either. So I might be getting Gavin Stone was yesterday. So I just feel like I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Like I don't want to get too excited, but it does feel like there's something a little bit different. The approach at the plate from top to bottom feels more mature. We've talked about, tweeted about how Morel is looking better at the plate. I feel good. I feel really good. And on top of it all, Nico still isn't hitting.
Yeah. Nico's struggling.
Yeah, bingo.
I will say this, I think it comes down to managerial decisions, and it starts with the top. I think it was genius to have Ian Happ leading off. Why?
Doesn't swing at anything out of the zone.
It's
because he gets on base.
I felt it was interesting,
That's why.
against
I love Moneyball.
Jake, you ruined it. Or Jeff, you ruined it.
Ruined it.
Jeff,
sorry, my bad. He gets on base.
why do we like Ian Happ?
I like him because he gets on base.
That's why, because he gets on base. And his base on ball percentile is 95th percentile. Like the dude is absolutely he gets on base.
And that's something that would piss me off last season when he would just take the walk instead of swinging when there were runners on base. But when you've got him leading off the inning.
Yep.
Jeff apologizes for not muting his mic.
But that's the difference of having Ian Happ batting third, fourth, fifth, and having him bat first. He is a table setter. He gets on base. And then you have Seiya, Belly, Morel, Busch to drive him in. And it's working. I kind of, and not to say when Ian Happ first came up, where did Joe Madden have him? In the leadoff. Because even in the minors, Happ did work counts and take a lot of base on balls. That's who he is. That's, if you listen to the compound, he knows he's on when he's taking walks. And when he's doing that, he's helping the team. Now he's in a position where he's a little bit more mature. He can handle it. And you're seeing the success of the lineup. Now, you brought up Horner. Do you think it's affected Horner being a little bit further back in the lineup and not in the leadoff and being the table setter, or the ladybug on my hat? Do you think it's affected Horner?
No, because I think one of the snippets I heard during the telecast before the delay yesterday is I think Council's going to kind of go with the righty-lefty matchup. If it's a righty, we're going to see Hap in that leadoff spot. If it's a lefty, we're going to see Nico in that leadoff spot. So maybe if he knows that's kind of coming and what's to expect, he can prepare a little bit differently to be that leadoff role that day. He's a professional athlete.
I have felt like Horner hasn't been as patient at the plate, and he's taking some daddy hacks. Like, he's been taking some hacks at the plate and kind of like Willie Mays Hayes, Major League 2, like trying to hit some bombs instead of just doing what he made him successful last year and just hitting the ball the other way, hitting liners in the gaps and being that guy. So hopefully he hasn't tried to power up, which I know I've kind of wanted him to see some more power out of Nico. But now that if Busch is becoming providing a little bit more power, Morel's providing a little bit more power, you have guys that he doesn't need to, where I think in years past, we've kind of like, no, we need some guys to hit some dingers. I guess we have to have Nico do it, but that's not necessarily who Nico is as a player.
Right.
And I'd like to see it come naturally. Like who Dansby did, I think it was pregame yesterday, maybe. Boog was interviewing Dansby. They're doing 120-second interviews before 120 starts now. And Dansby specifically pointed out that Nico is jacked. It's like, okay, Nico, let your swing play. Don't overdo it, because we see him hitting backside doubles. Like we saw him doing that and hitting the ball into the right center field alley repeatedly last year. And if he is muscled up, if he is more muscular than he was last year, let that natural swing play, and the ball should theoretically carry more than it has in previous years because he's more muscular, because he's bigger. I mean, he's 26 years old. So it makes sense that physically, he's getting into the prime of his physicality. So the power should come. He shouldn't be forcing the issue like we've seen so far.
I really wonder if I don't know. I love the 2016 season, clearly, because I'm wearing my hat from that one.
What happened that season?
Yes, I don't know. They won some games in Cleveland, I think.
Oh, that's exciting. Cleveland sucks.
Yeah.
Or it rocks? No.
I still think back to that season and what Addison Russell's job in the lineup, the batting order was. He was that second leadoff guy in the 9 slot almost, or most of the time. And I wonder if we won't see Nico end up there, and then you end up that second time through the order, if he's hitting for contact, hitting to get on base in front of Hap, if that doesn't maybe change Hap's stance a little bit, or Hap then gets pitched a little different, which leads to him hitting a little more. I love what Hap's doing right now with all the walks and everything. And if you're a fan of the compound, like Mitch said earlier, you hear him say when he gets a walk, he's on. Yeah. I'm not worried about Nico. I wonder if it's a situation kind of like say last year. You pump up a little bit, you get a little swole. Maybe things aren't moving the way they normally do. It takes a little bit to get back into normal. Who knows? Could be. Overall, I'm loving this approach by the team. This approach by this team reminds me of the 2015, 2016 teams that were like pitcher monsters. They would just be like, nope, we're not swinging at anything outside of the zone. You're going to have to get it in the zone. We're willing to take really long at bats. We're willing to take walks. We're willing to get on base.
And that's where I think, is that a reflection? Because I think that season was a reflection of who Ben Zobrist was as a hitter. Mm-hmm. And him being the leader. And now like this year, really like the leader is Craig Counsell. And you would see that approach a lot with the Brewers. And I feel like they've kind of just I feel even listening to Craig Counsell, like talk about the lineup, like I just feel like he's got like a plan now with him where Ross was like, just go out and be you. And it's like, okay, that's great. We do want you to be you as a player, but we want you to have an approach. And I feel like they have a collective team approach. And like this, like Dansby, Seiya, Morel, and Bellinger have combined for 29 of the runs batted in for the Cubs. Like, that's what you want out of the heart of your order. And I haven't even talked about Hap. Hap, you can throw, I think you could throw 5 more in if Hap, because nope, he has 6 runs batted in. Hap. Seiya has 12 runs batted in so far this year already.
He's been so good.
Right?
He's been so I mean, he hit a double to start the game. Well, second at bat of the game today.
And then you have Cody Bellinger, revenge series for 2, having some dingers. And I'll have a question because I saw Jake post on Twitter, never stop chanting.
Right?
Now, question, should we stop chanting and only use it in the big moments? Or should every time Cody comes up, should we chant Cody, Cody? What are your thoughts, Jake?
I think that fans are going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it's going to, they're going to use it in regular situations, like regular bats. But I think the novelty is going to wear off very quickly. But
Right.
it's going to resurface then in key moments.
Yeah, that's what
And I think that's fine. It's going to like taper itself off in the right way. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I just laughed that like we've gotten lucky twice now. It was great the first time. The first time was like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
This
so
last
natural.
time was like Cody, and then he hits it. It's like okay, it's worked twice. Let's now pull this back and use it when we really need it. If we need to like power him up like Godzilla, we need to like juice him up. Like let's have this power and use it at the right time when we need it. So it doesn't wear off. But yeah, it's been fun. And it's been fun just to see, like, I think that I've kind of missed just Wrigley and the power that is within Wrigley of like what it can do to get me excited, to get the fans, to get the players playing at top notch. Like I've just missed watching Cubs baseball and then seeing the power of Wrigley do things like that where, not saying that it provided a home run to Cody, but like it does, it gets you going, and that's cool. Third base. I do want to bring this up. We've seen now Morel. Is he's starting at third base tonight? Is that correct?
Hang on. I think that's him over there.
Okay. So we've seen now Morel get some starts at third base, and we've seen Counsell, the way he's used the DH has been kind of interesting. This is now the second time that Say has been the DH. We've had Ian Happ be the DH once. We've had Morel be the DH. Like, do you like how Counsell's been using the DH so far to give guys a little bit of rest early in the season? And do you think eventually, because of the struggle maybe over at third base, that Morel will just be the DH, and we'll try to find somebody else at third to kind of fill in that? Or what are your guys' thoughts?
I think. Go ahead, Jeff.
I like the carousel of the DH spot because it does allow guys a rest from playing the entire game and still having their bat in the lineup. I think it's a hard job to do because you're not in the flow of the game if you're the DH. I do love the fact that we haven't went out and spent a bunch of big money on like an AL, the American League, DH, that's just what he does.
My only problem with then when Morel plays third is then we have Nick Madrigal being our 5-hole hitter or 3-hole hitter or 4-hole hitter late in games.
Oh, when they switch him out.
So every time that he plays third, and it's happened one game where the team came back and then it made it a close game and Morel was out of the lineup and we'd already made the switch. And then you have Dansby and Cody on, and then the guy who you're looking to drive him in is Nick Madrigal. And it's like,
But Madrigal's come
But
through in
he's
some
been
of those
doing
You're gonna piss
moments,
Jake
though.
off.
Yeah.
he
No,
has,
no. Being realistic, like yes, there have been a couple. Like more recently, I think there was a bases loaded jam, and he bounced out to like the pitcher or the third baseman with the infield in. I want to say, so yeah, like it's been frustrating. Of course, Madrigal's not the first guy that you want. Like he's not the first guy you're going to choose to have up in the plate, but let's give him a little credit. Like he's driven in some runs. He's had some good ABs. But I do think that is like that aside, that is an excellent point, Mitch. Like, yeah, if that late game defensive substitution is going to take place, it could end up being a problem on offense. But I trust that that's something that Council's going to know how to balance.
yeah,
Because he's shown that he's been able to balance the lineup so far to this point. And speaking to your point about getting guys rest with a rotating DH spot, I love that, because what were we talking about at the end of last season? Guys being burnt out because they weren't getting enough rest. So rest their legs, but still get them those ABs. And if you can get that early in the season, even if it means that later in the season we have just Morel like holding down the DH spot, those days off early in the season are still going to pay dividends later on. Even if Morel is the sole DH starting in, I don't know, like mid-May or whatever.
and it's allowed Mike Tauchman to get some playing time, and he's been playing really well. Like the summer of Mike Tauchman is carried over to summer number 2. Like
his defense just looks effortless out there, man. I think, like, obviously he had that, I guess what do we call it? Like a walk-off catch in St. Louis, like, or the game-sealing catch. Like, yeah, that's an easy thing to pinpoint, but man, does he make it look easy on a lot of these plays out there.
Switching gears, let's talk about the bullpen and Julian Merriweather going down now. Like, I think it's like a spinal fracture or a rib. Like, I think I think he's going to miss 8 weeks. How is that going to impact the Cubs bullpen, and who do you see getting his innings? I mean, we talked so much about like him to Neris to Alzolay, like that, like that's how we want to end games. And now you don't have him in there, which we talked a lot about. I'll kind of piggyback, Jake, off what you just said. We talked about how the bullpen was run down at the end of last year. We're saving bullets in Julian Merriweather's arm right now with him being injured. I don't want him to be injured right now, but you have to think about when he comes back in July, let's say, that's like a trade deadline pickup for our bullpen that we're going to get him back, bearing that there isn't any setbacks in his rehab and getting healthy. But like, you got to look at it that way. Like, we have a guy, if we can make it through to July and be in the hunt, it's like picking up a top tier bullpen arm in July. But how's that going to affect us until then? Who do you think is going to get most of those innings?
I wonder if it won't be Luke Little. I don't know. I just kind of, I go back and forth. Will it be Mark Leiter Jr.? Mark Leiter Jr. has also thrown the 5th highest innings already. And that's kind of where he slotted in.
Yep.
Will he keep his splitter? Is that what he lost last season and then struggled? So far, so good in that regard. But I like Luke Little. Man, he is a huge dude. And I think he changes the eye angle for any of the batters that come in there.
I will say this. I think Luke Little is our future closer.
Nice.
That's so bold. Like when? What's your timeline
They
there?
switch Alzolay?
2 to 3 years. 2 years.
I just
This
think
year-
there's a
this year
reason
will
we
be
don't
as-
see a lot of lefty closers in baseball.
This year he'll kind of like, this year he will be a developmental year. Next year he will move into like a solid like 7-8 guy. And I mean, he just has such a good like 2-pitch kind of arsenal. If he fits the mold of being a closer, and he's just like, he's a imposing dude out there. He's just so like big and he throws hard. Like he's just, you are right there. There isn't that many left-handed closers, but I mean, Josh Hader's done it. Like Luke Little can bring it, and he's looked really, really good so far. I would say probably, I don't know, Palencia, I would love to see just get some safe innings where it's kind of out of reach to build some confidence early in the season. But I would agree, probably Mark Leonard Jr. is going to get a load of those. Quas has not looked good so far this year. So, yeah, I don't know who else would maybe get those innings.
I think, oh God, who said it on Twitter? Someone said, and it was in response to maybe Yency Almonte's like first poor outing, or someone said like the more innings that this guy gets, like the more likely it is that Carl Edwards Jr. is going to be coming back. And that was something to me, like from the get-go, I mean, I understand it's tough because signing someone like Carl Edwards Jr., it tightens the flexibility of the bullpen, because if he's signed to a major league contract, he doesn't have options. And I don't think, from what I can tell, it doesn't look like he's signed anywhere. Spot Rack, or however the hell you pronounce Spotrack, who knows? I don't know how you pronounce that website's title. I don't think anybody does. But it's the free agent tracker. I don't know if this is up to date, because it has David Robertson on here, and I swore David Robertson signed somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm basically looking at this to see, like, hey, are there any arms, free agent arms, that make sense? I think Daniel Palencia, Daniel Palencia has been spoken well of over the last few years after we traded Andrew Chafin for him. There's a reminder for Cubs fans where he came from. And there was some excitement, like, whoa, this is who we got for Andrew Chafin. And it could still be there. I haven't really looked at any of his stats. I kind of forgot that he was in the Cubs farm system until he got called up the other day. But I don't know. I'd love to see old friend CJ Edwards back on the Cubs, because his stuff looked sharp in spring. His breaking ball, his curveball looked filthy.
And I'm glad he is back in the organization. And I'll be watching Iowa Cubs to see how well he does down there, to see if there's any.
Is he on the roster?
Yeah.
Is he on?
He signed on Thursday.
He signed on Thursday.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm behind on that. Okay.
Yep, he's with the Cubs, and that's the thing. Like, if Palencia struggles at all, he has options. Luke Little has options. Like, if you needed to, or if like our starter goes down early and it's a bullpen day and you need to bring somebody up to fill innings, Carl Edwards Jr. is going to get the call. He's probably going to be the first one, because he has major league experience, and he looked good in spring. He did pretty well last year towards the end. So that's going to be, what we're going to look for this bullpen. But Neris has looked good. Elsley has looked good. Mark Leonard Jr. has looked really good so far this year. It's just, don't want them to burn out towards the end.
Totally.
But since we're talking pitching, I want to bring up Shota and Jordan Wicks, because our lefties have been absolutely filthy so far this year. So I feel like we need to give them props. Jordan Wicks pitched well enough on Saturday to win that ball game, and came out of it after striking out a guy. Who did he get? Who's his last guy in that game? I can't remember.
I don't remember who it was, but when he walked off the mound, that was such a great shot.
but he got taken out with 2 outs. I think he struck out.
So that was the end of an inning. Okay.
But he struck out was it Muncy?
I think it was Muncy because that's how they're batting.
Yep, and then who was after that? Hernandez was after that, and Quas came in, and Quas gave up the double that drove in 2. Or Quas won through a wild pitch, and then gave up a double, and then they're down 3-0. But it was I know you didn't want lefty versus righty in that situation with Hernandez now seeing Wicks for a third time, but Wicks pitched Hernandez pretty well the first 2 at bats. I would have loved to see him get another chance to just finish the inning, but yeah. But I did want to just stop and give them a little props because they looked really, really good. And our rotation is been staying strong. Ben Brown looked good coming in after Luke Little. After Luke Little, piggybacking, where Luke Little started the game, pitched 1 inning and dominated. And then, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how our rotation plays out the rest of this April until we get Man of Steel back. But I've liked what Council has done so far, and I feel like he's done it like your shirt, Jeff. But I feel like he's done it to take pressure off of guys and set them up for success. So that's what you look for in a manager. But want to kind of end there. One, because the Cubs game started. I want to kind of watch this Cubs game. And do you guys have anything else? Parting words?
Shota's been so much fun to watch.
Shota's been so fun. Wicks's fastball is playing insanely well. Both of them are locating the fastball well. They're getting good ride on the fastball. Really quick, swinging strike percentage on the fastball for Wicks this year, 20.2%. MLB average is 10.7% among starting pitchers. It's been crazy watching him pitch. We did not expect that from Jordan Wicks.
No.
If he can be that dude, that's huge.
Right.
That's huge.
He did that against the Rangers and the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
He didn't pitch a Colorado team in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's what makes it even more impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. One, give a shout out to On Tap Sports Network. We're part of the On Tap Sports Network. So if you're looking for any Cubs articles, go to ontapsportsnetwork.com, as well as go to their YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you can catch us every single Monday night, as well as the Cubs on Tap crew. I think they're doing a post-game show tonight. So if you've drank your third cup of coffee and you can't fall asleep, you can check them out tonight because they're going to be up late. I feel bad for them because we come to pregame, they're doing postgame. But yeah, make sure you're checking them out and reading all the articles and staying up to date on all the Chicago sports news. But that does it for episode 150 of the Dingers podcast. Go Cubs.
Go Cubs, go.